It's time for Refresh Your Lineup, presented by Subway. Take a look at the Week 5 waiver wire targets at quarterback. Sam Darnold, who we talked about. Trey Lance, who looks like the starter, at least for the moment, in San Francisco. Daniel Jones, who's been playing well. Taylor Heineke has been hot as well. Your running backs, Kenneth Gainwell, and then a trio of Ravens. I don't know what you call it. Is it a flock of Ravens? I have no idea. Latavius Murray, Le'Veon Bell, Devontae Freeman. No, it is not 2015. I promise. It's not. Damian Williams in the mix, especially if David Montgomery has to miss significant time. Samaje Perine as well. Joe Mixon dealing with an ankle injury, something to keep an eye on as the week progresses. At wide receiver, A.J. Green. He's a thing again. Darnell Mooney, who had a big game against the Lions on Sunday. Laviska Shenault, who played well, especially with DJ Chark not available for the foreseeable future. Jamison Crowder is back now for the Jetropolitans. And Kadarius Toney, who got some love for the Giants last week. Then a couple of tight ends, Dawson Knox and Max Williams. Yes, the position might not be deep like I want it to be, but these are guys who are getting some work. So a couple of names to talk about, though. Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones, a couple of quarterbacks we have been waiting on for a few years now to break out, and it looks like they're starting to do that this year. Both these guys playing really well for the first month of the season. If you look at it over the rest of the schedule, which one of those two quarterbacks do you want?
For me, it's Darnold, and there's a couple reasons. One is just how the players both look. I think Darnold actually looks legitimately like a franchise quarterback. When I watch him throw, he looks good. When I watch him move, he looks good. When he takes off, for some inexplicable reason, because we never saw it in the early half of his career, to run into the end zone, he looks good. And Daniel Jones, I think, is putting up numbers. You know, he's got a lot of rushing yards, but I don't know if he really looks this good, so it's harder for me to trust. On top of that, Darnold has some of the best weapons in the league. I don't know what to think of the Giants' weapons right now. And the schedule looks very nice for Sam Darnold as well coming up, much better than it does for Daniel Jones. So I'm on board with Sam Darnold. Consider me sold, I guess. Adam Gase, you suck. Period.
I am doubling down on that, and not just because I'm an SC homer. I really do think the path is better for Sam Darnold. I mean, you talk about that schedule, right? I mean, the next few weeks, they've got Philly, they've got Minnesota, they've got the Giants, they've got the Falcons. I mean, none of those are terrifying defenses they get to face. I mean, even the games that at least I thought would be difficult. I mean, we talked about Washington. They're coming up in a few weeks. That's not as scary as it once looked. Miami, not as scary as it once looked. So I think there's definitely possibilities for Sam Darnold to continue to be productive. On top of it, you mentioned the weapons. I'll also go one step further and tell you that I like Joe Brady as an offensive coordinator better than I like Jason Garrett as an offensive coordinator. So I just think there are a lot more reasons for me to kind of latch on to Sam Darnold. And look, Daniel Jones has been good. He's the QB6. Darnold is the QB5. They are right next to each other in the rankings at the moment. But Darnold has played really, really well, and I'm happy to see it. He's added to the list of Adam Gase expats who have found success once they have moved on. So I'm cool with that. So now your top waiver wire targets in week 5. If you have the top priority or if you're going to blow a bunch of fab budget, where are you going with that?
Well, I don't know how much of my budget I'm going to blow on this guy because he's not super exciting, but I'm targeting Jamison Crowder. Yes, it's not a flashy pick. He's not going to become an RB1 like some other guys might be able to do from the waiver wire for you, but when Jamison Crowder is on a football field, he's a startable PPR wide receiver. Period. The end. And he came back in his first week back this week, put up 7 catches on 9 targets for 61 yards and a touchdown. And you will not get that touchdown sometimes, and it'll just be 7 catches and 61 yards. But that's still not bad as a PPR flex play. And I think you're going to get it consistently because this is what he's done for his entire career. This Jets team is always going to be losing. Crowder will be getting those targets as a result. It's going to be the modus operandi of this team for the entire season. I mean, listen, there's plenty of other options with more upside on this week's waiver wire, so I do not fault anyone for going for them, but maybe this is even the guy you put second on your list, but he is a plug-and-play flex starter. Give me some Crowder.
I like it because, as you mentioned, the consistency, and you're right. He's not a sexy name, right? People look at Jamison Crowder and it's like, But I think, especially if you don't necessarily have the top waiver priority, and if, let's say, you are a good team, right? You're 3-1, you're 4-0, and you know you're not going to necessarily get a lot of these guys. Crowder, I think, is a nice add because it is that consistency, that guy you can plug into the flex spot and be fairly confident you're going to get a good game from week in and week out. I am leaning toward Kenneth Gainwell myself, and we saw this past week that he outshined Miles Sanders, and I think he's starting to close the gap in terms of usage and production on Sanders. Sanders will still be the lead running back. I still think he's going to be the RB1, but I think that gap between he and Gainwell is going to close, in part because I think Gainwell's a little bit of a better pass catcher, and that's important in this Philadelphia offense. And they want their running backs to catch the football. He has out-targeted Sanders through the first 4 games of the season. I think that trend is going to continue, and it just seems like they're starting to find more ways to use him and more things to do with him. And so, he's not going to be a guy that's going to pop in there as your RB2 and you're going to start him every week and he's going to get you 18 to 20 points. But I think he could be a nice add, a nice piece that can flex sometimes for you, and that when you have guys injured or on bye, you can plug him in and he can get you some nice numbers there. So keep an eye out for him. I felt like he should have been drafted in a lot of spots, but I get it. But now you have a reason to go out and get Kenneth Gainwell, so you should probably do that. By the way,